Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MPGO Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is the Revels of Ixalan set review for Red. You know what time it is, I've got my red shirt on, let's go over the red cards here, starting with Blood Sun. This is a 3-mana enchantment. When Blood Sun enters the battlefield, draw a card. All lands lose all abilities except mana abilities. While this card may not be that great for Standard, maybe it has a lot of potential in Modern. Keep in mind it shuts down all secondary abilities of lands, basically. So basically your shock lands, your fetch lands, all that kind of stuff, and makes like the Tron lands kind of better. A lot of people are advocating that the green-red Tron decks will probably use this card, and I tend to agree with that. However, for Draft and Sealed, this is going to be shutting down the rare flip lands you actually get into in Draft and Sealed, so this is probably just going to be sideboard only in those strategies. In Standard, it may be good against a Search for Azcanta deck or a Legion's Landing deck, something like that. But we already have Field of Ruin and other things to interact with lands that shut down lands like this. I'm not really sure a 3-mana enchantment would be worth it in the Standard format. Moving on here, we have Bombard, a 3-mana instant. Bombard deals 4 damage to target creature. Awesome removal for 3 mana, great against an opponent that has a large creature, and a good card to get into in red, and it's also a common, which means in Draft and Sealed you may see multiples of these. This is a great reason to get into red if you're already got a strong creature base with red. Bombard is awesome, I love it. Will not see any Standard play, but Draft and Sealed, absolutely. Next up here we have Brass's Bounty, a 7-mana sorcery. For each land you control, create a colorless treasure artifact token with, of course, tap it, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Brass's Bounty for me feels like a weird combo piece in a situation where we have like Anointed Procession out or something like that on the battlefield, and a weird like white-red strategy in Standard. For Draft and Sealed, this card is not that great. It kind of does nothing the turn you cast it, and it's 7 mana, so really it does nothing for real. It does obviously put off Ascend like automatically if you're worried about that, so that is something interesting about the card. But I do think ultimately the card really isn't that great for Draft and Sealed. Probably could be in a weird Standard situation or Standard brew, but that's about it for me. Next up here we have Brazen Freebooter. Love the art on this one. This is a 4-mana 3/3 human pirate. When Brazen Freebooter enters the battlefield, create a colorless treasure artifact token with, of course, tap, sack it, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. A 4-mana 3/3 is not that great. It's not bad, but a 4-mana 3/3 that also makes a treasure kind of like helping you ramp a little bit is pretty decent, especially in the common slot. I do think if you're in a dinosaur strategy or a pirate strategy in red, I think this card is definitely going to be in one of your slots somewhere. Obviously, a Draft and Sealed only, not for Standard. Next up we have Buccaneer's Bravado. Great name, great art. 2-mana instant. Choose one. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains first strike until end of turn, or target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn. Actually, target pirate, not creature. Either way, this card is fantastic as a good combat trick, especially if you have a pirate on the battlefield and gets double strike instead of first strike. I think that's awesome. If you're in red and you're looking for combat tricks, this is a great card to get into. This card will not see Standard play though, sadly. Moving on here, we have Charging Tusker Don, a 5-mana 4/4 dinosaur with trample. If Charging Tusker Don would deal combat damage to a player, it deals double that damage to that player instead. This card is super interesting and could be a bomb for you in Draft and Sealed. It could be a great way to actually deal 8 damage in dealing the final blow. Do keep in mind this card also has trample, so any extra damage it goes over if it gets blocked by a 2/2 or a 1/3 or something like that, if only one gets through, it still does 2 points of damage because of Charging Tusker Don's effect. I think this card is super powerful, and we'll probably see a lot of top-end play in Draft and Sealed. Again, not really for Standard, Draft and Sealed only. Moving on here, we have Daring Buccaneer, a 1-mana 2/2 human pirate. As an additional cost to cast Daring Buccaneer, reveal a pirate card from your hand or pay 2 colorless. A 1-mana 2/2 in a pirate build in Draft, Sealed, and even Standard, this card is fantastic and a great on-curve creature, being a 1-mana 2/2. I think this significantly speeds up pirates in Standard, and I think this card, if you get into it and you're in a pirate shell in Draft and Sealed, is amazing. You want to pull into this every single time you see it. Next up for us, we have Direfleet Daredevil. This is a 2-mana 2/1 human pirate with first strike. When Direfleet Daredevil enters the battlefield, exile target instant or sorcery card from your opponent's graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. If that spell would be put into a graveyard this turn, exile it instead. I think in Draft and Sealed, this card is probably not that great, and I would kind of feel bad getting into it. However, it is a 2/1 with first strike and a pirate, so it does go well in a pirate shell if you get into it, but I do think that the ability here on this card is kind of bad for Draft and Sealed itself. I do think it has a little bit better of a chance to be good in Standard, where there are a lot of removal cards in the actual format itself right now. I think that's probably the real reason it's been printed, It may be a good sideboard card in standard to bring in against a heavy control matchup or a heavy removal matchup, but in draft and sealed, it's just a 2-mana 2/1 with first strike. I think that's fine too, though. However, I would feel really bad getting into this as my rare. That's kind of sucky. Next up here, we have Ixalan Primal Storm, a 6-mana 6/6 legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. Whenever Ixalan Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. A 6-mana 6/6 is a great way to shut out a match in draft and sealed. However, it has no like protection from anything, so it might just be cast and die, thanks to all the removal in the format. But it is a really fun card. If it does go off at least 1 or 2 times in a match here in draft and sealed, it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be fun. I think in standard, this card will see like 0 play, but maybe in commander, this card will see some fun play since it is a legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. Moving on here, we have Fanatical Firebrand, a 1-mana 1/1 goblin pirate with haste. You can tap it, sacrifice Fanatical Firebrand. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Again, the pirates are so cheap in this set. It's amazing. In draft and sealed, if you see this and you're in the pirate brand or in the pirate like situation or type, I think this card is fantastic and like a cherry on top for a common slot here. I think in standard, this card might actually see some play too, depending on how low the pirates do go in the standard format. I think this card has some real potential at being a good standard card as well, since it is a 1-mana 1/1 with haste, and of course can do an extra point of damage if you want to sacrifice it too. Moving on here, we have Forerunner of the Empire, the other Forerunner, a 4-mana 1/3 human soldier. When Forerunner of the Empire enters a battlefield, you may search your library for a dinosaur card, reveal it, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. Whenever a dinosaur enters a battlefield under your control, you may have Forerunner of the Empire deal 1 damage to each creature. So there are a lot of dinosaurs that have the enraged mechanic still, and Forerunner of the Empire helps trigger that over and over again. There's actually a potential combo in this actual set right now with a 8-mana dinosaur that whenever it gets enraged, it makes a 5/5 dinosaur as well. That's a copy of it, and of course Forerunner could do that over and over again as those tokens enter the battlefield. While I think that's fun and hilarious, it is like a ton of mana to do that, and I don't think it's probably going to see any kind of standard play. It may see some draft play just for fun. Again, if you're in the dinosaur kind of build or archetype in draft and sealed, Forerunner of the Empire is quite good at being able to help tutor for you, as well as help getting the enraged trigger go off. I do think, however, in standard, this card is probably too expensive and will not be played, sadly. Next up here, we have Form of the Dinosaur. This is a 6-mana enchantment. When Form of the Dinosaur enters the battlefield, your life total becomes 15, so you take 5 points of damage. At the beginning of your upkeep, Form of the Dinosaur deals 15 damage to target creature an opponent controls, and that creature deals damage equal to its power to you. In Draft and Seal, this card might be a blowout for you, but at the same time, it could also kill you too, so really want to be aware of what Form of the Dinosaur is doing in Draft and Sealed. I think in standard, it's probably just too expensive to use, and I think in Commander, it might actually just be a hilarious card to shut down any kind of like creature-based strategy against you. Maybe like a red-white strategy where you're gaining life as well as taking the damage from Form of the Dinosaur. Either way, I think this card is hilarious. I think it's a lot of fun, and the art is fantastic. Moving on here, we have Frilled Death Spitter, a 3-mana 3/2 dinosaur with enrage. Whenever Frilled Death Spitter is dealt damage, it deals 2 damage to target opponent. This is a fantastic common for you in red. You're always going to get into it if you're in the dinosaur build and the dinosaur archetype. Even if you're not, though, a 3/2 for 3 is good, and when it's dealt damage, it deals 2 damage to target opponent. So if you have an enraged trigger going off, it's going to deal 2 damage regardless, and it doesn't die getting off a second enraged trigger later when it does block something too. I do think this card is very pushed, and we'll see a lot of play in Draft and Sealed. However, I don't think this will see any kind of play in Standard. It just doesn't seem like it's there for me. Moving on though, we have Goblin Trailblazer, a 2-mana 2/1 with Menace Goblin Pirate. That's it. 2-mana 2/1 with Menace, very good. You're going to draft into it all the time if you're in a pirate build, and if you're in red as well. It's got evasion, and it's 2 damage coming in on turn 3. I think this card's great. Again, a lot of the pirates are very low to the ground and have some sort of evasion or some way to speed them up with haste. And I think for the most part, they're all really, really fun. Next up here, we have a Mutiny, a 1-mana sorcery. Target creature an opponent controls deals damage equal to its power to another target creature that player controls. I love this card. This is a removal card basically for red for you in Draft and Sealed. This card might actually see some weird play in Standard as well. It's really fun and has the ability to really shut down an opponent who has multiple large creatures on their side of the field. I also love the flavored text here for this card. It's awesome. Pirate captains rarely enjoy a peaceful retirement. Again, if you're in red, this card is amazing here. Next up here, we have Needletooth Raptor, a 4-mana 2/2 dinosaur with enrage. When Needletooth Raptor is dealt damage, it deals 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls. A 4-mana 2/2 is not great, but a 4-mana 2/2 that can be pinged for 1 still survive and do 5 damage to a target creature an opponent controls is amazing in red. Do keep in mind we have cards like Dual Shot and Ixalan being able to do 1 point of damage to a creature, and Needletooth Raptor will be able to survive that, dealing another 5 damage either in a later turn or that turn when it does die due to combat. I think this card is supreme removal in red in Draft and Sealed, and you definitely want to pull into it for 4 mana. I do think this card is bad though in Standard, as it is 4 mana for really a removal spell that could just be used as a Fatal Push or Harness Lightning or Lightning Strike or whatever else in Standard instead. Moving on here, we have Tusker Raptor. The art here is ridiculous, so bright. A 4 mana 3/4 dinosaur, and that's it. And this is a card that's kind of like the, the vanilla creature that you really want in a Draft and Sealed deck. 3 power isn't that bad, and 4 toughness is pretty decent for 4 mana. I sort of wish this card had some form of evasion, like Menace or something like that, or maybe even Vigilance, but I kind of understand that. We do need our vanilla creatures, and this card is a card you want to pull into in Draft and Sealed if you need that 4th or 5th slot for a good, decent body. Again, this is a Draft and Sealed card only, not for Standard. Next up here we have Pirate's Pillage, a 4 mana sorcery. As an additional cost of Pirate's Pillage, discard a card, draw 2 cards, then create 2 colorless treasure artifact tokens with, of course, tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Pirate's Pillage is very good for 4 mana in Draft and Sealed. I do think this card is probably not going to see any kind of play whatsoever in Standard, but for Draft and Sealed, being able to draw 2 cards and make 2 more treasure tokens, making this basically a 2 mana discard a card, make 2 treasure tokens. Yeah, I think this card is fantastic in Draft and in Sealed. Moving on here, we have Reckless Rage, 1 mana instant. Reckless Rage deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control and 2 damage to target creature you do control. This card is stupid for 1 mana. I know it's uncommented here, but in Draft and Sealed, this card is like a blowout for just 1 mana. It's crazy. It kills a creature on your opponent's side of the field, and it does trigger Enrage. This card is crazy powerful if you have lots of dinosaurs in your actual deck. I wouldn't be surprised if this card actually saw Standard play because of how cheap it is, but it probably won't due to being able to deal 2 damage to target creature you control. I think dealing 4 damage though for 1 mana is amazing, even if it does kill a creature on your side of the field. Next up here we have Rekindling Phoenix, a 4 mana 4/3 Phoenix with flying. When Rekindling Phoenix dies, create a 0/1 red elemental creature token with, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature, return target card named Rekindling Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. Due to the amount of limited removal we have in Draft and Sealed, Rekindling Phoenix is going to be a bomb for you in red. A 4 mana 4/3 that comes down attacking on turn 5 is very good, and if it does die, it comes back and has haste if the red elemental creature does survive the next turn. I do like the flavor of this card. It kind of gives your opponent like a chance to get rid of it, but if they don't have any kind of removal, then Rekindling Phoenix comes back and swings in again for 4 in the air. I think that is so powerful, and I think this card is going to be a bomb mythic for you guys in Draft and Sealed. This might see some fringe Standard play, but I don't think you'll see like any kind of mainstay Standard play as well. Moving on here, we have another card called See Red, a 2 mana enchantment or enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +2/+1 and has first strike. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't attack with this creature this turn, with a creature, not this creature, sacrifice See Red. This card is awesome. Giving anything on your side of the field first strike is very, very good in Draft and Sealed, and I don't think this card will see any kind of a Standard play per se. It may see some Standard brew around, but I do think in Draft and Sealed, this card is a bomb for you if you're continuing to attack out, especially with a +2/+1 first striker. If you're in a very fast pirate build, this is a card you want to get into for sure. Next up here we have Shake the Foundations, a 3 mana instant. Shake the Foundations deals 1 damage to each creature without flying, and you draw a card. This is a fantastic enrage trigger. This is a fantastic card draw mechanic for you as an instant speed mechanic, and great if you do have like those weird flying creatures on your side of the field that are just there that has 1 toughness. Overall, this is a Draft and Sealed card only, will not see any Standard play, but regardless, it is fantastic for you if you're in the dinosaur build. Next up we have a super symbol card for us, Shatter, 2 mana, instant, destroy target artifact. In Draft and Sealed, this is fantastic. In Standard, we already have better cards like a Braid, but that doesn't mean that it won't be great if you want to get into it as well. I think in Draft and Sealed, this card is great at shutting down, of course, any artifact that comes our way that we do not like. It's simple, to the point, and of course, it's cheap. A sideboard card for days. Moving on, we have Silverclad Frost, a 7 mana 8/5 dinosaur. That's already good. And with Enrage, whenever Silverclad Frost is dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Or sacrifices a permanent, rather. This is a Draft and Sealed card only, and probably just a commander card because it's amazing. But in Draft and Sealed, this card is stupid powerful if you get into it. Getting to 7 mana is not that hard in Draft and Sealed, and being able to enrage this as an 8/5 is just dumb. Especially when you know that the enrage trigger will be able to go off multiple times thanks to the 5 toughness on the creature. However, of course, Silverclad Frost does not have any kind of like protection or evasion, so it might die just as soon as it gets played, so you do want to look out for that. But otherwise, this card is dumb, this card is fun, and I can't wait to play it in Draft and Sealed. Next up, let's go to Stampeding Horncrest, a 5-mana 4/4 dinosaur. Stampeding Horncrest has haste as long as you control another dinosaur. Again, if you're in a dinosaur strategy, this is a fantastic on-curve dinosaur, getting in for 4 points of damage on turn 5 if it does have haste. If not, it's a 5-mana 4/4, which is still not terrible, and it also can have haste later in the match, of course, if it does get bounced or something like that. Being a common here really does mean you're going to see it probably a lot more often than you think, so that does mean in Draft and Sealed, this card is going to be probably an all-star if you have a lot of other dinosaurs. But of course, you will not see this in Standard at all. Next up, we have a fun card here, Stormfleet Swashbuckler, a 2-mana 2/2 human pirate with Ascend, and of course Ascend is if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. Stormfleet Swashbuckler has double strike as long as you have the City's Blessing. Again, a pirate deck in Draft and Sealed, if you do get Ascend, is fantastic. This is a 2/2 double striker, and that's amazing. And if we see that Ascend goes off really well in Standard, this card will probably see Standard play as well. Just so many cheap pirates in this set. It's amazing. I cannot wait to play a cheap Rakdos pirate deck in Standard. Next up here, we have Suncolored Raptor, a 2-mana 1/2 dinosaur with trample, and of course you can pay 3. Suncolored Raptor gets +3/+0 until end of turn. This is the best fire breathing mechanic we've seen in a while. Making it a 4/2, attacking it with trample is amazing. Obviously it's going to do a lot of damage coming in. Opponent probably won't block it the first time or the second time, but maybe the third time they'll block it with something because they don't want to deal that extra 3 points of damage. And that's where you trade with whatever their big creature is. Suncolored Raptor is basically like the premier Draft and Sealed card for you. You're not going to see it in Standard, but in Draft and Sealed you're going to see it all the time, and it's going to be a giant headache. Moving on here, we have Swaggering Corsair, a 3-mana 2/2 human pirate with Raid. Swaggering Corsair enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if you attacked with a creature this turn. So we had one from the previous set that got this in blue, and it was a, I think it was a 1/2 flyer, and I do think that was an uncommon. Here we have a common 3-mana 2/2 that has a similar effect, making it a 3-mana 3/3 if it does have the raid trigger activated. And since it is a common and in Draft and Sealed, this is probably just going to be okay. It's not going to be bad in the least. I do think it's going to be fine, especially, of course, if you do get the raid trigger going off. It's just going to be one of those cards you fill in your 14th or 15th slot in Draft and Sealed. Again, this card will not see any kind of Standard play at all, though. Next up, we have Lonnie's Crown, a 2-mana enchantment aura, enchant creature. When Lonnie's Crown enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to enchanted creature, so it triggers Enrage, and the enchanted creature gets +3/+0 and has Trample. Again, this is a great card for us, being able to kind of get in some extra damage with Trample on top of it, and +3/+0 as well. But if we do have a dinosaur on top of this as well, it does trigger their Enrage mechanic if they have one, being able to get even more value on top of an already decent enchantment aura. I think this card is fun. I think this card will see play, and I think this card is probably not going to see any kind of play in Standard. And the last card for us in red today is Lonnie's Summoner, a 2-mana 1/1 human shaman with Ascend. Whenever Lonnie's Summoner attacks, you may pay X in red. If you do, create X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. At the beginning of your next end step, exile those tokens unless you have the City's Blessing. I think in Draft and Sealed, this card might actually be a huge bomb for you at being able to be very fast turn over turn. I think in Standard, this card might actually see some play too, especially if we realize that Ascend is going to go off way more frequently than not. One of the best things too is that Ascend can be fed by Lonnie's Summoner whenever it does attack out. Keep in mind that tokens do count towards your Ascend mechanic. So say we have 5 mana, we pour 5 mana into Lonnie's Summoner, we attack, we already have Ascend right there. I feel like this card is going to get undervalued a little bit in Draft and Sealed because it is kind of weak here, but I do think if it does go out unabated several times, then it's probably going to get in a lot of damage, and a lot more damage than you realize. I think this card is a lot of fun, and I do think it'll see probably some Standard brew around play. But that is all the cards in red for Rivals of Ixalan. Tell me what you think. Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you like that the actual pirates are so cheap in this set? I love that. I cannot wait to play this set. It's so low to the ground and fast, it seems like. I cannot wait to get into it. I'm going to have a ton of fun, and I will see you guys in the color green.